fingers slowly over the bookshelves. Nothing happened. What did you expect, Nancy Drew? She chided herself. A hidden spring revealing a secret passage? Who goes there? A hoarse Scottish burr rolled from behind the wall. Still gripping one of the shelves, Cassie stumbled sideways and the entire bookcase moved with her, sliding open like a door. Holy shit! For shame, lass, what a tongue you have, a husky voice growled. She peered around the edge of the bookcase. A man sat in the recessed space, one shoulder propped against the inner wall of what happened to be a passageway. His legs were sprawled in front of him, his bare legs. Would you look at that? The man is wearing a kilt. Note to self, Cassie Crow, be careful what you wish for. The man groaned again and raised a hand to shield his eyes from the sunlight now cutting across the hidden alcove. Are you all right? I will be fine once you dice that blasted light. He squinted up at her. Be ye a new chambermaid? Chambermaid? She eyed the wide sleeves and open neck of the old-fashioned piratey shirt he wore. Not sure what kind of stuff you're into, buddy, but I don't do RPG. Weird ass. His dark red brows drew together as he shaped his mouth around the letters. RPG? Role-playing games? You know, like cosplay or whatever. She pointed at him. Look, you're the one wearing that get-up and talking like a reject from Macbeth. He narrowed his eyes at her finger. Be ye a witch? What did you call me? With another groan, he lurched forward. Oh God, what if he was hurt? For all she knew, he was a member of some historic castle tour who got lost in a back passageway and hit his head. She leaned down to inspect him for bruises. He threw a hand out, palm up, warding her off. Back away, sorceress, he hissed. Seriously? She slapped his hand out of the way. Here, let me help you out of there. Cassie tugged gently on his shoulder. The voluminous shirt was loose, but she could feel and appreciate the thick spread of muscle beneath the soft fabric. Just my luck. I finally run into a hot Highlander, and he's delusional. The man waved off her assistance and struggled to his feet, shaking a wild tousle of thick red hair out of his eyes. Cassie never fancied herself to be a ginger girl, but it worked on him. Or maybe that was the kilt talking. She eyed the swath of plaid fabric around his hips and wondered, like most in her position would, what might or might not be under there. Reluctantly, she raised her gaze and caught him scrutinizing her in return. What be these strange breeks you wear? He asked, moving in a circle around her. Cassie swore she could feel the weight of each of his eyeballs resting on her denim-clad backside. Fair enough. After a prolonged moment, she glanced over her shoulder. Get a good look? Aye, he swallowed. 'Tis most unseemly, lass. He shook his head, gaze still glued to her ass. They're called jeans. She pivoted to face him. Are you for real? He met his gaze, his answer falling from his lips in a deep, rich brogue trilling with R's that curled her toes. Aye, lass, I'm real. Cassie's heart hiccuped. Of course he's real, unless those shots were stronger than I thought. Were you at the whiskey tasting? Whiskey? His green gold eyes lit with interest. Do you have whiskey for me, then? I could use a wee dram. Be a good lass and fetch it for me. Ha! I think you've had enough, mister. Is that how you ended up stuck in there? Even as she said this, Cassie doubted it. She didn't smell a hint of alcohol on him, though she did pick up other pleasant smells, mint and clove and man, and stop being ridiculous. His broad shoulders lifted and dropped. I dinna ken. How long were you in there? Another shrug. Cassie dragged her attention away from the wide curve of his shoulders and leaned past him, inspecting the dark, narrow space behind the bookshelf. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her back, panic edging his voice. Nay, lass, do not be going in there. Why not? She inched forward and tried to get a better look. It cannot be safe. He tugged on her wrist again, his fingers warm and firm. Tiny butterflies danced along the path where his skin touched hers. She brushed away the tingling sensation and slipped out of his grip, careful not to snag her bracelet. Well, you were in there, and you appear to have managed. Are you daft, wench? I was trapped. She sniffed, not sure she liked being called wench, and frowned up at him. What's the last thing you remember? He closed his eyes and slumped against the shelf. I cannot recall anything before the moment I woke to find myself crammed within yonder wall. He blinked and focused intently on her. The moment I found you, lass. Cassie decided she liked being called lass much better than wench, especially when he was looking at her like that. Gazes locked, her other senses sharpened, heightening her awareness of his body and its proximity to hers. She cleared her throat. I think it'd be more accurate to say I'm the one who found you. For a moment, Cassie indulged in the fantasy that had been building in the back of her mind ever since she'd first discovered him. Looking at his big, kilted body, it was all too easy to cast him as a warrior from long ago, a Highland hero sent forward in time to find his true love. But that was a plot of her favorite romance novels. Unfortunately, this was real life, and brawny, beautiful men in kilts did not magically appear from behind hidden walls.
Fantastic. One of the
Not a time travel.
right. Disclaimer. I actually read the excerpt on Amazon. It goes quite a bit beyond that. It was fun to read. I especially liked your work. Wanted to have you on the program because, like mine, it's set in Scotland. So you've been to Scotland. How many times? What brought you there?
I have not. We were supposed to go to Scotland, and then we were supposed to actually go last summer. So I have spent a great deal of time researching Scotland, but I have not yet had the pleasure of getting to experience it first person. But I've had a lot of people who've read this book and told me it made them feel like they were there. So
You've been to Dublin and London.
I've been to Dublin and London. Yes, I have. Okay. I've been to and I've been like to surrounding areas around Dublin. Yeah. Some castles in that area. Yeah.
Is that sort of part of what drew you to Scotland, or what made you want to set a book in Scotland?
Oh my goodness. I fully admit to being someone who loves the Highlander romances. Like I am a huge fan of, especially the time traveling Highland romances. I mean, obviously Outlander is the biggest, the one that everyone, usually recognizes. And there's a lot of affectionate winks, I like to say, to Outlander, but also to Karen Marie Moning, who had an entire series of like these time traveling Scottish druids. So it's just something that I've always enjoyed. And when I started writing this book, I was just kind of just having fun, and it, kind of writing in a sense that, it could be a time travel. And then of course it turns out that he's, having a bit of a joke, and he's playing a prank. So, it's fun as readers start this book, they constantly say, I thought I was reading something else, and then surprise.
Right. Well, which is appropriate because she herself is very surprised, and I think she never quite believes it, but
well, it's one of those things where she's just tipsy enough and just hopeful enough, and the moment, and this, there's like this flash you have of what if like what if this Scottish hunk fell out of the wall from another century.
Amazing. Yeah, when I read the excerpt online, I was struck by one line, and it wasn't in what you read, but just a little bit beyond that, I think. And she says she's been fantasizing for years about, having this wild romance and playing with some exotic, European Highlander, whatever. And so when she's here, the line is her brain just skipped straight to the good stuff. And she realizes, like, wait a second, now I'm here. I don't actually know what to do. And I'm really struck by that because I think it's, I almost wondered, were you kind of breaking a fourth wall a little bit? Were you poking fun at romance where I don't read a lot of romance. I confess that I read very little of it. I haven't for years, but I've never seen someone like that self-aware. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I think so. I think there's I talk about affectionate wings, and I think there is definitely a lot of like kind of these affectionate nods to the more ridiculous tropes in romance, the more out there things that happen, and having fun with it in a way that and there's a lot of and kind of diehard romance readers are very self-aware of the ridiculous levels of some of the things and the things that they enjoy. And we embrace it, though. It's okay. Like, you know, I think there's bonkers things in any, genre, and whether it be like the thrillers or the gladiator types of things, with the war stories, and he just kind of, so we call it like leaning in, so you lean in. Yes.
Yeah, on the thrillers, it's the trombones come and play the eerie chords, and yet she goes down to the basement in her flimsy nightgown anyway. Don't you hear the trombones and the minor chords? Don't.
And I think that was a good thing you picked up on, because, right. And honestly, like, if you dream of a situation, but then what happens if you're actually tossed into that moment? Like, you don't know what you're going to, you may have thought about it for years, but like, for it to actually happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I kind of joked with my writers group one night. I'm like, I'm no good at this fantasizing because I have a writer's brain and I have to figure out, wait, how did I meet this guy? Where did I meet him? I have to lay the plot and it has to make sense. And like, just do that because I've got a writer's brain. Like, no, you have to write this like a story and it has to make sense. So, but I did get a kick out of that line. And I think that we are ready for beer number 3 already. And this one I'm excited about. Would we even call it a beer, Michael?
Yeah, it's beer. Here's
beer.
beer.
Okay. That's
so this is the
unique
we're referring to. So this one, I was reading into this a little bit, but my thinking was, or my sense was, that this is taking place at some sort of fancy cocktail party, not in the US, and our heroine is an American. I could be completely wrong about that, except that the heroine is American, because that's specifically referred to. But her Americanness is called out. And so she seems out of place as an American in this more sophisticated European setting. And so I decided we're going to and she gets something spilled on her. So I had cocktail partners of all sorts. So we're going to make a cocktail. So go with the version of the Americano. So Americano is an Italian cocktail. It is equal parts Campari and sweet vermouth with soda, club soda. But the beer Americano comes from a swanky cafe somewhere in Italy. You just replace the club soda with a lager. So we're using Firestone Walker lager, which this is really just an American lager dressed up in a fancy can from a fancy brewery. For some reason, a couple of years ago, the American breweries, the craft breweries, decided to go against their founding of rebelling against crappy American lagers and start making crappy American lagers. So I'm going to go there. So I'm going to switch cameras here to the cocktail cam.
I love that you have a cocktail cam.
I like that.
This up here. So we start with a classic Collins glass. We're gonna fill that with some ice. I should be using a tongue, but who cares? Then I've got 1.5 ounces of Campari and 1.5 ounces of sweet vermouth. So I'm gonna toss that in there. Then we're going to pour some beer into this little cup here. And then we're going to use one of these fancy, handy, handheld milk frothers. And we're going to froth that beer up. Get it so it's mostly foam.
How much beer should I have put in here?
I don't know, some.
Just like my cooking with Sean.
So this is an Italian beer Americano.
Top this off with that beer foam.
Oh, look how fancy that looks.
And garnish with an orange peel. So we'll twist that orange peel on top of there, stick it in, and there you go.
I love that it's a beer cocktail. That is awesome.
Now, I like to mix these up because you'll see the beer sort of floats on top.
Yeah, it's like suspension. You can see the different colors almost.
Yeah, so typically I like to mix these up because I like it all blended together.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's lovely that way with the beer floating on top.
I just couldn't get mine to stay frothy no matter what I did.
It's not going to stay frothy very long. It's American lager.
Okay.
So I'm just going to mix this up because I want all of the stuff together. But I wanted you to see how the beer floats on top.
Okay. My orange peel just doesn't look as good as yours. In fact,
I make a lot of cocktails.
I'm going to put 2 orange peels
All right.
to see if that balances it out. Here's mine.
This is super fancy. I'm gonna have to have these at like my next like book club party.